I'm Alethea and Nana, and I'm worried about our communities. This video is filmed within the context of the events of the summer of 2020, the Black Lives Matter movement, as well as the events that have been happening in Canada at the same time. These events do concern me and have been weighing heavily on me. And I'm not going to get into the specifics of the events. I think there are other speakers who have done so much more eloquently than I have. I can't even say the word eloquently right now. So I had a lovely friend on Facebook point out that they were concerned with how self-care is being used right now, that there's not enough community care. I'd like to talk about both of those things, especially within this context, as well as broader contexts, so that we can think about how we can be better community members and how that can help us individually, and bringing self-care into that process and that way of working to be the best you that you can be. There are 3 pillars in my mind of community care. The first pillar is listen, the second pillar is support, and the third pillar is amplify. So for the first pillar, listening, also includes watching and being aware, reading, keeping up to date on current events, especially in your community, local to you, how it's affecting the people around you, and this could be as close as your neighbors. I think part of being a good community member includes knowing who your neighbors are, being on a good, first name relationship with them, and being aware of the issues that are affecting their lives, so that when those issues become difficult for them to work with and process and work around, you can be there to support them. The only way we can move to the support pillar is if we have already increased our awareness around the issues. So this can be on the broad scale of national, it could be global, as in the case with COVID. It could be even just within your backyard, like right next door. So I think it's important to recognize that we are all neighbors in different ways, and being present and being aware of what's going on is going to make us better neighbors. Supporting can come in so many forms, and it's really difficult to describe all of them, so I'm not even going to try. But it can be as much as bringing some food that you know they will be able to appreciate. I used to keep a list of my friends' intolerances so that I could make them food when they came to visit, or if they were in a situation where it might be more helpful to have that burden of cooking taken off of their plate. So if you can use your talents in any way to provide them with that service, the service of removing a worry, so that that's one less thing they have to deal with. If you can mow their lawn so that they don't have to, if you can in any way contribute, that is support. There is financial support that can be given. If you find a cause that is affecting your community that you feel very deeply and is very close to your heart, definitely find a way to responsibly support that with your financial contributions. I think that it is actually very easy to shave off a percentage, a small percentage if you are in tight funds, of our budgets to make donations. I personally do this. There is an Indigenous women's shelter in Toronto that I try to support every paycheck. Sometimes I can't. Sometimes I just can't. But when I can, I make that effort. I make that a priority and consider it just part of my wealth. That is one of my personal indicators of wealth, of being able to financially support my friends and family and those that I consider to be extended friends and family, even though I might not be related to them at all. Being able to lend financial assistance is a hallmark of wealth to me. In addition to using our talents, or as part of using our talents, we can reach out to provide emotional support. And this ties back to listening, being able to reach out and say, you know, I'm here for you, and listen to the stories. That is a form of support. Trying not to talk over those stories is really important and is also part of listening. I have a challenge with this personally. I've spent a lot of my life as a woman being talked over, and as a result, I've developed a bit of an ability to talk back over and a tendency to talk over other people as a retaliatory measure almost. And that's something that as a white woman, I'm trying to reduce doing, trying to listen to the people around me more than talk over them, and just make sure that I get my turn to talk in situations where I might be muzzled. But there are many situations that we're facing right now where it's more important to not silence those stories by trying to interject over them. Really listen to what they're saying and what they're feeling and respond to those feelings. There's also the physical support that we can provide by volunteering or even protesting if that's something that you feel called to do. Showing up and being there is part of using our talents. It's part of using our abilities to support our communities in as many ways as we possibly can. Amplifying is something that's easier to do on social media and much harder to do in person, I think, because it's hard to know when a story is okay to share, because they're not always ours. On Twitter, you can retweet. On Instagram, you can, boost the messages of people who you feel need support right now. And that's a way that we can amplify their voices so that more people can hear what they have to say, so that more people can see the stories and perform their own listening process to be a better community member as well. So amplifying is going to be really important for getting the messages out and letting other people know what's actually happening as opposed to what they may be seeing from within their own bubble. We all have a bubble that we exist within, that is a bubble we have crafted, that is one that we're comfortable in. And it can be very challenging to break out of that bubble and see different perspectives and listen to different stories that we may not find comfortable and may find to be challenging. And it's really important that we do that to develop ourselves as community members. Throughout the process of listening, supporting, and amplifying, keep in mind your core values and how you can change the culture around you, change your bubble to make it reflect those values, and also maybe learn new values and change the values that you have. So it's about changing the culture that's around us so that it is a more welcoming, healthier, less painful place. And I don't mean to just cover up the pain. I mean to help heal the pain. I live in Canada, and a lot of our culture is perceived as being very polite, but to me it is a lot about ignoring what's actually going on because it's too unseemly and too difficult to process. And that a lot of it comes across as if I ignore it, it'll just go away. And that mentality can be so damaging and just lead to a culture of ignorance. And that goes against my core values, is that we should have more knowledge and more understanding, and that will make healthier communities. I also believe that we should use our voices to speak up against things that damage those communities, even if they are institutionalized and systematic, that it is important, or especially if they're institutionalized and systematic, that those are challenged and work is done to repair them. That can be a very painful thing to go through as well, to fight that sort of fight. So I think that having your own personal boundaries set up, those lines where you know you're emotionally draining yourself and perhaps burning out, and providing yourself with self-care during those times. So setting timers on social media, recognizing when you're reaching a frustration point, an emotionally draining point, and perhaps limiting communications at those points so that you're not draining yourself of your ability to be part of the community and be part of the change that you want to see. Self-care also includes bringing positive stories forward and looking for the helpers. Fred Rogers, bless his heart, he was right. Look for the helpers. And those stories will help keep focused that there is a possibility for change and there is a way forward, and there are those that are also willing to help. Knowing the things that help recharge you and refill you and inspire you and not just rile you up, those will be part of self-care as well. Being able to listen to other speakers who make me feel like I can be a part of the change really helps me, and we can amplify those voices as well, and maybe they can be inspiring for others. Also, just retreating within yourself for a little while to reflect and recenter and ground yourself so that when you move forward you're able to support in a way that is gentle and kind without increasing pain in any way. Even something as simple as having a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, depending on your poison. But it could be something as much as meditating for half an hour to really find that stillness within yourself so that you can move forward with more grace. Anger does have a place in this. There are those who will be angry around you, and you may find yourself getting angry as well, and the energy of that can culminate in change. I feel like a lot of the emotions that come up during times like this can be swept under the rug and pushed away because they are too challenging and too uncomfortable. But it's important to remember that all of these emotions are coming from a place of challenged core values, of threatened life, and that anger and that frustration is valid. If that anger and that frustration is not yours, you can definitely continue to be kind and caring and compassionate. But if you are moved to feel those, I really want to encourage you not to push it down, but to try and understand what thoughts and what energies around those uncomfortable feelings are really coming from. If you find yourself blaming yourself or blaming others around you, those can be used for examining feelings and really understanding what responsibility we have in the society that is here now. Something that is being questioned a lot right now is privilege. I am a white woman. I am employed currently, so I have a privilege of still having a steady income. I have the privilege of being outside of the whole COVID situation right now, in the isolation that I have. I am part of a system that I benefit from as a white person, and I've always benefited from as a white person. I've lived throughout my life in predominantly white communities, and that has inherently given me a privilege, and that makes me angry. That makes me want to promote change and help those who aren't as lucky as I am to be as lucky as I am, to build a community where they can have just as much opportunity as I do. In Canada, one of our big issues is Indigenous rights. There have been recent situations that make me immensely angry because of police brutality and the way that's been cropping up in the news. And that anger propels me to make videos like this to remind myself that I can make a change, and so can you. We can all make a change here, and we can all be better community members, stronger community members, loving community members. I can be loving in my anger because my anger is for others. And instead of lashing out at myself or other people in that anger, I can direct it to be productive. I can direct it to lend my voice, to amplify others' voices, and let that propel me forward. I don't think that anger is a bad thing. I do think that anger needs to be managed so that we don't end up hurting those around us more in the energy of it. And I don't mean, the emotional energy of it. I mean that a lot of the times when I get angry, I get very energetic and don't think first. It is possible to be angry and thoughtful. I do actually encourage people to find something that they feel so passionately about that it does make them feel angry, and it makes them challenge what they know and what they feel is the correct way to do things, and really examine their core values. And I think that is a value of anger, that it is a changing energy. It is something that can force change and cause change. And that change has to start within ourselves before we can move it out to our community. Once in our communities, supporting the people whose anger is continuing to propel them forward, their frustration is continuing to propel them forward, we can do that by these 3 pillars: listening, supporting, and amplifying. I can't emphasize that enough. Lend your financial assistance when you can. Share the stories of people that are being affected, and be there to listen so that you know and you are aware of what's going on. I think this is a way that I can improve as well. So I should have been using a we throughout all of this. That we can do this together. We can make a better, equal world together. Thank you so much for being here with me. And I hope you are the best you that you can be right now.